Yesterday, CBS put out an interview with Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. For those that don't know, the IRS has put forward a proposal, and what they want to do is they want any bank account that has $600 or more in it. They want to know what's going on. They want to be able to get their little prying eyes on your cash. If you got more than $600 in an account, they want to know deposits and withdrawals or payments. What is going on? They are asking financial institutions, banks, and credit unions to go ahead and do it. Here we got Janet Yellen peeking in your piggy bank. There we go. And so when she was asked about this yesterday, here is what she said on CBS Evening News.
You want banks to report transactions of $600 or more. That's what the IRS wants. Does this mean that the government is trying to peek into our pocketbooks if you want to look at $600 transactions?
Absolutely not. I think this proposal has been seriously mischaracterized. The proposal involves no reporting of individual transactions of any individual. Look, the big picture is that we have a tax gap that over the next decade is estimated at $7 trillion, namely a shortfall in the amount that IRS is collecting due to a failure of individuals to report the income that they've earned.
But that's among billionaires. Is that among people who are transferring $600?
No, it tends to be among high-income individuals whose income is opaque and the IRS doesn't receive information about it. If you earn a paycheck, you get a W-2, the IRS knows about it. But high-income individuals with opaque sources of income that are not reported to the IRS, there's a lot of tax fraud and cheating that's going on. And all that's involved in this proposal is a few aggregate numbers about bank accounts, the amount that was received in the course of a year, the amount that went out in the course of the year. If somebody reports an income of $10,000 and they had $3 million go out of their checking account, that tells the IRS that's an individual you might audit.
I mean, the White House says that American billionaires pay an average income tax rate of 8.2%.
Yes, it's extremely low.
That's lower than teachers, than cops, than a lot of people.
It's unfair, and it's something that we need to remedy.
All right. There's a lot to unpack here. First, I'm going to start with the facts. Americans did not pay 8% tax rates. The wealthiest Americans did not pay 8%. That is absolutely a propaganda talking point from the White House. The White House put out a report. If you remember, we broke down the report. The report said if the rules said that we were going to tax unrealized gains, then and only then would their tax rates be 8.2%. That's not what the rules are, and that's not what people paid. Go look at their tax records. Many times they've been leaked. You can go see they paid much, much higher rates than 8%. That is literally misinformation. We just listened to misinformation. Second of all, is the fact that I don't know a single time in history anyone has reported $10,000 in income and they were sending $3 million out of their bank account. That is an egregious, absurd example. At what point, I would like to see one example in history where somebody reported only $10,000 of income, but they really had $3 million of income. I don't believe it. Third of all, is that if there's a $7 trillion tax gap, there are 330 million Americans. That would be equivalent to each American being responsible for $21,212 each to make up that $7 trillion gap. Now, they are saying that it is not everybody. It is only the wealthiest people. There are 2,700 billionaires in the entire world. If you think it's them, go and do something with them. Why do you need to know the person who has $1,000 in their bank account, what they're doing? Let's say that they actually cheated you out of $50. They were really bad people, very nefarious actors, very dangerous, actually, some may say. Is it really worth doing this and giving up the freedom because you think somebody might have cheated you on $50? Again, it's absurd to think that. Now, I do understand the point that they are not saying we're going to see every single transaction. We instead are going to just see how much came in, how much went out. But here is the problem. That's what they're saying today. Tomorrow they'll say, oh, now that we know how much is coming in, we actually need an itemized record of how much of it, where's that all coming from? Who sent you that money? Oh, we see a lot of money went out of your account. Where is that going? How much is actually going out at what time? So the slippery slope continues. And so ultimately what we're watching is we're watching financial surveillance. And financial surveillance is not what America was built on. Instead, what we should be talking about is the fact that we need financial privacy. We should be encouraging more and more and more Americans to actually have the privacy. If you think about American ideals and American ethos, what you remember is that it is not worth encroaching on any one single individual's rights to try to go after anybody that you might think is bad. I understand your job may be harder. I'm not saying that anyone at the IRS or the Treasury, Federal Reserve, politicians, etc., have an easy job, but it is their job. And so when you start to think about this, why are we encroaching on the freedoms of one individual in order to try to catch a couple of billionaires that you think might not be paying their full taxes? Plano, what do you think?
I have two thoughts on this. One, I don't trust anybody who answers a question that's yes or no with absolutely not. Like, that's just, I don't know. Two, I recently overheard a call where somebody was asking Anthony for some financial information that the other person clearly did not need. And they're like, well, if it's easy for you to pull it, why don't you just send it to me? And Anthony goes, because I value my financial privacy.
I did say that to that guy. Good. I put that guy in a locker, actually.
Good.
I hope he watches this, too.
Locker.
Yeah, I gave him a swirly, a virtual swirly.
No problem.
No problem.
You want virtual swirly?
No, somebody was like, was trying to get me to give him all this information. And I said, I'm not going to do that. And he was like, wow, you have to. And I said, no, I don't. And he said, you have to. And I said, no, I don't. And we went back and forth for a little bit. And then he said,
turns out you don't have to.
He said, it's easy to pull. And I said, oh, okay, so what? And yeah, of course, eventually I didn't have to give him the information.
Financial
Get
privacy.
your eyes away from my bread. This is a stepping stone to giving up privacy in your financial life. If there's a gap in what people are reporting as income and they want to go after the billionaires and the successful people in life, they're not doing it over $600. That should not be the minimum.
What do we think the threshold should be? Should it be people with $1 million in a bank account? Should it be people with $250,000?
I don't think it's
But
any of
what's
their
the
business.
point?
Should it be based on a transaction or the value that you hold in your bank account? I think it should be based on a transaction if you really want to do it that way. I don't think it necessarily has to be $1 million, but it's definitely not 600.
I think that they actually shouldn't do it at all.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I don't
Right?
think there's any limit.
But-
I don't.
Like, I don't care if you got $20 million in your bank account. They shouldn't have the ability to see how much is going in and out unless they got a warrant.
Well,
Facts.
unless
You want to see the information? Go get a warrant because you must think I'm doing something wrong. But if you don't think I'm doing something wrong, why do you need the
Right.
information?
Yep.
but
Right?
unless the IRS is like, hey, like this is very suspicious,
Yes,
whatever.
agreed.
But my question is, she didn't answer the question of like, why is this necessary? She kept talking about the wealthiest people, but $600 in your account does not qualify you as one of the wealthiest people.
Well, to be clear, and I see somebody in the comments that's like, oh, you guys are just protecting billionaires. No. Just so we're very clear, this is the way that this works, is what they do is they basically say, hey, the big bad billionaires, the rich people, the wealthy, the successful people, you're not like them. You don't have $1 billion. You're not wealthy. You're not successful. We're going to try to get them. But then they write the rules in a way that encroaches on your freedom as well. And so do not be tricked. This has nothing to do with, I don't give a shit about billionaires, right? What I care about is that this is an encroachment on the financial privacy that every single person should have the right to, because I saw somebody else say it. In America, you are innocent until proven guilty. This is the opposite. This says everyone's guilty until they're proven innocent. You don't need the information. And so somebody like a Senator Lummis in Wyoming absolutely took the Treasury Secretary to task earlier, saying, why do you need to know when the cattle ranchers buy a new cattle? And she said, why do you need to know if somebody wants to buy a new couch? Why do you need to know? If you think that they're doing something wrong, there is an avenue to go figure that out. But ultimately what we're finding is that it's not that they think everyone's doing something wrong. This is just an encroachment on that financial privacy. On top of it, I can think of 2 different billionaires, or 3 different billionaires actually, in the last 12 months that have gotten themselves in trouble and had to pay massive settlements. So Robert Smith from, what was it?
Vista.
Vista Equity Partners.
Yeah.
His partner
Robert.
or whatever, Brockman, right?
Robert
Brockman. And then the third is all the guys at Renaissance Technology. They just had a massive settlement. I think they had to pay a couple $2 billion as well. And these aren't people who necessarily were doing something that was like super nefarious. It all always comes down to like, hey, we thought that we were paying the right taxes. We had a letter from a lawyer, whatever, right? Whether that's nefarious or not is up for debate. But if they're able to catch, and I put that in air quotes, those people, and they had to pay fines or had to pay some of the taxes, it sounds like the existing system we have is working. Like you're finding out the people who are doing things wrong. Why do you need to know what somebody had $600 in their bank account? Like there's literally going to be 16-year-olds who work a summer job, they get $600 in the bank account, and the government, hey, let me see what's going on in there.
And
what's up?
And actually, if the government cared that much about billionaires doing nefarious things, Robert Smith would have gotten a much, much heavier handed penalty than he did. Therefore, I don't think it's about wealthy people at all.